Welcome to the 2023 Medical Legal Partnerships Plus Notice of Funding Opportunity Pre-Application Presentation. This presentation provides prospective applicants of the Medical Legal Partnerships Plus program with details about the 2023 MLP Plus Award competition. Please note that we will be referring to the Medical Legal Partnerships Plus program as MLP Plus throughout this presentation. The 2023 MLP Plus Notice of Funding Opportunity, or NOFO, is now available at www.grants.gov. The Office of Community Services, also known as OCS, within the Administration for Children and Families, ACF for short, wants to bring to your attention some important details about the 2023 MLP Plus Award competition. Full details can be found in the NOFO in Section 4, Application and Submission Information. These details will also be discussed in this presentation. As an applicant, it's important to note that ACF requires applications to be electronically submitted via www.grants.gov. The deadline for electronic application submission is 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on the due date specified in the NOFO. The deadline for receipt of paper applications is 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the specified due date. Keep in mind, to submit a paper application, applicants must obtain a waiver in advance. Applicants that have not been approved for an exemption from electronic submission will be disqualified from competitive review and funding under this NOFO. Each applicant may only upload 2 electronic files, one for the project description and budget justification, and another containing all documents required in the Appendices. All project application materials must be included in one of these 2 files. Additional files that are loaded into grants.gov that are not part of either the project description or Appendices files, such as resumes, business plans, etc., will be removed from the competitive review file and not reviewed by the panel. The exceptions to this are the standard forms and OMB approved forms, which will not be counted as additional files. Carefully note the file naming conventions required by www.grants.gov. Limit file names to 50 characters, which includes characters and spaces. Adobe Acrobat is compatible for use with grants.gov. However, we recommend using the grants.gov compatible version of Adobe Reader software. Read the troubleshooting page on grants.gov for more information. OCS is excited to kick off the 2023 MLP Plus Award competition. To begin today's presentation, we will share some details about the MLP Plus program. The MLP Plus program is funded under the authority of Section 1110 of the Social Security Act, 42 U.S.C. 1310. The purpose of this funding opportunity is to provide funding support to long-standing medical legal partnerships, or MLPs, to build, expand, and strengthen capacity to serve vulnerable families. This includes enhancing and/or increasing legal services and building and/or strengthening partnerships with social service providers, community-based organizations, and other nonprofits that work to address the causes and consequences of poverty, address social determinants of health, and increase the well-being of children and families, especially families experiencing challenges with housing stability, income support, family stability, civil rights, immigration, and environmental health. In Section 3, Eligibility Information, the NOFO notes that in order to receive an award, applicants must be long-standing MLPs that have at least 5 years of experience operating as an MLP. Applicants must submit the following documentation to demonstrate eligibility for this opportunity. Evidence that the applicant is a long-standing MLP, which can be in the form of a contract, MOU, or other declaration of contract. The documentation must be titled Evidence of Medical Legal Partnership Operation, and it must be on official letterhead and signed by all parties involved in the MLP. Applications from individuals, including sole proprietorships and foreign entities, are not eligible and will be disqualified from competitive review and funding under this funding opportunity. 501c3 and non-501c3 nonprofit organizations are eligible to apply. Funds from this award may be used within 4 areas to help address health-harming legal and social needs in underserved communities. Specific eligible activities include building, expanding, and/or strengthening the capacity of the MLP to deliver legal services, intentionally including or expanding the role of social service workers, case managers, or navigators in the MLP context. Building, expanding, and/or strengthening capacity of the MLP to connect children and families with needed wraparound social services that help address health-harming legal and social needs. Actively supporting the federal evaluation. MLPs who receive awards will use funds to build, expand, and strengthen their capacity to provide comprehensive legal services and wraparound social services to families with low incomes. As stipulated in the NOFO, there are 4 categories of unallowable costs under this funding award: pre-award costs, construction costs, purchase of real property, and major renovation costs. For more information about the eligible and restricted uses of funding awards, refer to Section 1, Program Description, of the NOFO. In Section 2, Federal Award Information, funding under this award will be made under a cooperative agreement. A cooperative agreement reflects a relationship between the U.S. government and an award recipient, and is used when the government has substantial involvement in the implementation of the activities being funded. Awards made under this agreement will allow ACF to learn more about MLPs and how they function, how MLPs increase access to wraparound services to address concrete needs, and how MLPs improve the social determinants of health and improved outcomes for children and families. Also note, recipients funded under this opportunity will participate fully in a federal evaluation and follow all evaluation protocols established by ACF and/or its designee contracts. Fully participating in a federal evaluation may include supporting and complying with data collection requirements and providing administrative data on program participation. Federal evaluation may also include an evaluation of MLP Plus implementation. For more information about program goals and desired outcomes, please refer to Section 1, Program Description, section of the NOFO. Section 3.2 of the NOFO outlines the cost sharing or matching requirement for this award. Per the NOFO, award recipients are required to meet a non-federal share of the project costs in accordance with the Social Security Act, Section 1110A1A. Under this award, recipients must provide at least 10% of the total approved cost of the project. The non-federal share may be met by cash or in-kind contributions. For example, if the total approved project cost is $277,778, in order to meet match requirements, a project requesting $250,000 in ACF funds must provide $27,778 in non-federal funds, which meets the 10% match requirement. Also note the important post-award requirements outlined in Section 6.3. Recipients of funding under the MLP Plus program are required to submit performance progress and financial reports periodically throughout their project period. The Performance Progress Report, or the PPR, is submitted quarterly throughout the project to report on key program outcomes. Financial reports are also submitted quarterly, and this is how recipients will report expenditures and federal transactions. Depending on the nature of the project, recipients may also be required to submit one or more additional forms. More information on what forms need to be submitted and when will be provided upon receiving the award. As noted in Section 2, Federal Award Information, for fiscal year 2023, $1.6 million is available to fund MLP Plus projects. The maximum award level for individual MLP Plus projects is $250,000. The minimum award is $100,000. Under this cooperative agreement, the length of each project, also known as the project period, is 18 months, with an anticipated start date of September 29, 2023. OCS anticipates funding approximately 6 MLP Plus projects for fiscal year 2023. Now, we will discuss some of the general format requirements for submitting an application for the MLP Plus award. Please refer to Section 4, Application and Submission Information of the NOFO for detailed instructions. It is very important to read Section 4.2, Content and Form of Application Submission, very closely. All applications must be submitted electronically using www.grants.gov. If you do not have an internet connection, or the computing capacity to upload large files, then you must request and obtain an exemption to submit a paper application prior to the closing date. At the end of Section 4.2, see the section on Request an exemption from required electronic application submission for more details on requesting an exemption. Keep in mind, there may be some differences in application formatting and submission requirements for paper applications, so please pay close attention to those requirements in the NOFO, because this section of the webinar only focuses on the requirements for electronic applications. All applications, both paper and electronic, must be double-spaced and use 12-point font in Times New Roman, except for footnotes, which may be 10-point Times New Roman. The parts of the application that may have different formatting requirements are listed on this slide and will be highlighted throughout the webinar. All applicants must submit and upload all required elements and supporting documentation in 2 files, the project description and the appendices. Details about the items included in the project description and appendices can be found in Section 4.2, Page Limitations and Content for All Submission Formats. These 2 files do not include standard forms or OMB approved forms. An example of such a form is the SF424. These forms will be submitted separately as directed in the online system. Applications with additional files will be amended, and files will be removed from the review. It is recommended that applicants use Adobe PDF to electronically combine documents instead of scanning multiple documents into one manually. We have also provided a resource on this slide which provides instructions and guidance on converting and combining files via grants.gov. In the next section, we will discuss the details of what these 2 files must include. In Section 4.2, Page Limitations and Content for All Submission Formats, notes that the project description file must include the items presented on the current screen. All items must be labeled, numbered, and organized clearly in the table of contents. Keep in mind that this is the narrative of your application, and it may include references to supporting documentation that may be included in the Appendices file. In such instances, applicants should provide clear references using item name, location, and page numbers. Section 4.2 also lists the items that must be included in Upload to Appendices file. All items must be labeled, numbered, and organized clearly in the table of contents. This information determines the applicant's eligibility for MLP Plus award funding. Thus, it is extremely important for applicants to read the NOFO for this award very closely and submit all the required information and forms outlined in the announcement. Failure to include any of the required information will reduce or may eliminate the chance of receiving an MLP Plus award. Next, we will discuss each component of the MLP Plus application by reviewing Section 4.2, Content and Form of Application Submission, which provides detailed instructions on how to put an application together. The project description in Section 4.2 provides a summary of application requirements, and Section 5.1, Criteria, provides the information on how the criteria are evaluated and ranked in competition with other applications for available awards. A list of the evaluation criteria and additional bonus criteria are presented on this slide, along with their respective point values. Please remember that while you know you have a great project, how the project is described and the supportive evidence in the application package is extremely important. Lastly, it's important to be concise while also providing enough information in your project narrative so reviewers, who know community development, but who don't know your challenges or your community, are provided enough details to see the success of this project in a very short time period. More will be said about the review process in later slides. Section 4, Content and Form of Application Submission, provides detailed instructions on how to put an application together. The first part of the application should be the project summary or abstract. It should be one single-spaced page in Times New Roman, 12-point font. please place the following at the top of the abstract: project title, applicant name, address, contact phone numbers, voice, fax, cell, email address, website address if applicable. The project summary should include a brief description of the proposed project, including the needs to be addressed, the proposed services, and the population groups to be served, and the precise geographical location of the project and boundaries. The project summary should also include the legal status of the applicant. We will now review the evaluation criteria. The project relevance and current need section is worth 7 points. It is split into 2 subsections, the first worth 4 points and the second worth 3 points. In this section, reviewers will consider the extent to which the application demonstrates the applicant's clear understanding of the nature and scope of the issues surrounding medical, legal, and social service needs for children and families with low incomes generally, as well as within the geographic area of service identified in the application. The applicant uses both quantitative and qualitative data, including data on unserved and underserved populations, to identify the need for medical, legal, and social services among families with low incomes within the geographic area of service contemplated by the application. This subsection is worth 4 points. Reviewers will also consider the extent to which the application demonstrates how the applicant prioritized equity in the design of their proposed project. This subsection is worth 3 points. The Goals, Objectives, and Outcomes section is worth 6 points. It is split into 2 subsections, with both sections being worth 3 points. In this section, reviewers will consider the extent to which the application outlines in a clear and concise manner major goals and objectives for the project that are attainable and able to address and respond to the stated need. Reviewers will also consider the extent to which the application includes proposed outcomes for the project that are clear, realistic, quantifiable, measurable, and consistent with the program goals as stated in this funding opportunity. The Approach, Legal Services section is worth 20 points. In this section, reviewers will consider the extent to which the application describes a plan to strengthen and expand the capacity to provide legal services to children and families with low incomes through MLPs, and demonstrates how the applicant will employ relevant activities to strengthen and expand legal services, including legal services in the areas of housing stability, income support, family stability, civil rights, immigration, and environmental health. The Approach Social Service Navigator section is worth 20 points. In this section, reviewers will consider the extent to which the application describes how the applicant will embed a social service navigator within the MLP context and/or demonstrates how the applicant will enhance the role of an existing social service navigator. The Approach Wraparound Social Services section is worth 20 points. In this section, reviewers will consider the extent to which the application describes how the applicant will build or strengthen their capacity to connect children and families with wraparound social services within the MLP context. This includes 1. Demonstrating how the applicant will establish or strengthen partnerships with local service organizations, such as community action agencies, also known as CAAs, social service agencies, and/or other nonprofit community organizations with relevant social service expertise and capacity. And 2. Describing how the applicant plans to seek out and form partnerships that provide services in housing stability, income support, family stability, civil rights, immigration, and environmental health. The Evaluation section is worth 5 points. In this section, reviewers will consider the extent to which the application describes how the applicant will fully support the federal evaluation of the pilot program in every phase of the project, and carry out any evaluation activities as requested by the federal office. The Organizational Capacity section is worth 15 points. It is split into 2 subsections, the first worth 10 points and the second worth 5 points. In this section, reviewers will consider the extent to which the application demonstrates that the applicant has the experience and expertise to carry out the activities proposed and that the proposed project directors, key staff, and/or consultants have the background, experience, and other qualifications required to carry out their designated roles. This subsection is worth 10 points. And reviewers will consider the extent to which the application demonstrates that the applicant's social service partners have the experience, expertise, and capacity to carry out the activities in the proposed project. This subsection is worth 5 points. The budget and budget narrative justification section is worth 7 points. It is split into 2 subsections, the first worth 5 points, and the second worth 2 points. In this section, reviewers will consider the extent to which the application contains a budget and budget narrative justification that are clear and easy to understand, are aligned and consistent with the project proposal, provide detailed justifications for the amounts requested, are reasonable and feasible with respect to the resources requested for each activity, outline reasonable time commitments for the proposed project director and other key personnel that are sufficient to assure proper direction, management, and timely completion of the project, propose salaries for the project director and other key project personnel that are reasonable and justified, and outline costs that are program-related and commensurate with the types and range of activities and services to be conducted, and the expected goals and objectives. This subsection is worth 5 points. And reviewers will also consider the extent to which the application contains a budget and a budget narrative justification that demonstrate a commitment and a description of the required cost sharing equal to a minimum of 10% of the total cost of the project. This subsection is worth 2 points. This NOFO includes 5 categories of bonus points, with each category between 2 and 5 points, with a maximum of 15 bonus points possible. Bonus points are awarded if the applicant provides adequate proof of meeting the requirement in the application. Also keep in mind, bonus points are awarded on an all or nothing basis. The bonus point categories include child-focused MLP. In considering the award of bonus points under this criterion, reviewers will consider whether the applicant demonstrates and provides evidence that their organization is primarily focused on addressing the health, legal, and/or social needs of children and their families. Safety Net Nonprofit Hospital. In considering the award of bonus points under this criterion, reviewers will consider whether the applicant demonstrates and provides evidence that their organization is designated as a safety net nonprofit hospital. Native and/or minority serving institution. In considering the award of bonus points under this criterion, reviewers will consider whether the applicant demonstrates and provides evidence that their organization is designated as or affiliated with a Native and/or minority serving institution. Project located in a county with persistent poverty. In considering the award of bonus points under this criterion, reviewers will determine whether the application demonstrates evidence that the proposed project is located in a county with persistent poverty, as identified by the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Economic Research Service. Listed in Appendix A, Persistent Poverty Counties. The applicant must include a statement and applicable documentation that the proposed project is located in a county with persistent poverty. Collaborating with other OCS programs. In considering the award of bonus points under this criterion, reviewers will consider whether the applicant states and provides applicable documentation that the proposed project will be in collaboration with current recipients, as well as their subrecipients, of other OCS programs to provide wraparound supportive services to individuals, families, and communities. The application includes a statement and applicable documentation that provides the name of the other organization, the name of the other OCS program, and the nature of the program collaboration. A list of current OCS programs is provided in the NOFO. Specific details about bonus point requirements can be found in Section 5.1 of the NOFO. Now, we will discuss the process for submitting your MLP Plus application. More information on the process is found in Section 4, Application and Submission Information. Applicants are strongly encouraged to review this information well in advance of the application deadline, as OCS will not be able to extend the deadline. All applications must be received by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on August 28, 2023 via grants.gov. Applications submitted after this deadline will not be reviewed. All applicants must complete 3 registrations in order to submit an application. Unique Entity Identifier, or UEI. System for Award Management, or SAM, registration, updated annually, and grants.gov registration. Please note that the registration process for grants.gov can take up to 10 days. All applicants are strongly encouraged to make sure that their grants.gov registration is complete and active well in advance of the application deadline. Applications submitted by an authorized organizational representative, or AOR, that do not have current registrations will be rejected by grants.gov. For detailed guidance on how to register and update registration for all three systems, please visit the Register and Get Ready resource available on the ACF website at the URL listed on this slide. If you encounter any trouble submitting your application, you must submit a ticket number directly from the grants.gov help desk. A ticket number is required for all waiver requests. ACF may extend an application due date and receipt time when circumstances such as natural disasters occur, such as floods, hurricanes, etc., when there are widespread disruptions of mail service, or in other rare cases. The determination to extend or waive due date and receipt time requirements rests with ACF's Chief Grants Management Officer. Applications are required to be submitted electronically at www.grants.gov unless they have received an exemption in writing from the ACF Grants Officer. Details about how to obtain waivers are described in the announcement under Section 4.2. If a waiver is granted, hard copy applications are due 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Refer to the announcement for the address to submit application. Applicants submitting applications electronically do not need to provide additional copies of their application materials. Electronically submitted applications will be considered late and disqualified if the date or timestamp is after 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on the due date. Detailed instructions on submitting applications electronically are available on the grants.gov website. Again, more information on the process is found in Section 4, Application and Submission Information. Now, we will discuss the details of the application review process as discussed in Section 5, Application Review Information of the NOFO. The NOFO discusses the application review process in Section 5.2, Review and Selection Process. Every application received from a qualified organization will be reviewed if it is submitted on time and as long as the request is not over the maximum funding level of $250,000. No more than 2 files will be provided to the panel to read and review. Once an application passes the initial screening, it will be reviewed and scored based on its responsiveness to the evaluation criteria in Section 5 of the Notice of Funding Opportunity. It will be reviewed and scored by a panel composed of non-federal social service professionals. The application will be reviewed for content completeness. Therefore, a very important aspect of the application is the inclusion of all documentation needed to support written statements. The easiest way to make certain your organization is covering all the bases is by submitting all of the elements in the application checklist presented in Section 8, Other Information, of the NOFO. Again, more detail on the application review process can be found in the NOFO in Section 5.2, Review and Selection Process. As stated previously, the NOFO discusses the application review process in full detail in Section 5.2, Review and Selection Process. To summarize some key points, highly ranked applications are not guaranteed funding. Reviewers' scores weigh heavily in funding decisions, but they are not the only factor considered. Several other important factors listed in the NOFO are also taken into consideration by ACF and OCS when making awards. Please note that the OCS director has discretion to make all final funding decisions. All applicants who are funded will be notified by email no later than September 29, 2023 from Grant Solutions, a comprehensive grants management system provided by the Grants Center of Excellence. Applicants that do not receive an award will receive an email from the OCS Operations Center with a copy of the panel's comments about the strengths and weaknesses of their application. While your project may have been very good, OCS only has enough funding to make awards to a small percentage of applicants. Several reference websites are included in the NOFO that may be of use in putting together an application. These websites are also listed on this slide. This concludes our webinar on the 2023 MLP Plus Notice of Funding Opportunity. Thank you for watching this pre-application webinar.